JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Some breaking news from the standpoint that the SBA is just further clarifying it, putting in black and white, and that's this. Yesterday, October 7th, late. This is so new, so fresh, this information I'm giving you, that if you go to the traditional SBA website and go to the PPP section and you click on the FAQs, that even when you go to click on it, it says October 7th. When you click on it, it's actually not the October 7th one. So you're getting info quicker than the SBA is putting it on their website, which is to say, if you're not a subscriber, you need to, because I'm bringing it to you fresh, right away, and clean from a CPA's perspective. And so here it is. We know that out of the PPP Flexibility Act that went into play, it indicated that there is now a due date of 10 months following the covered period end for someone to put in their PPP forgiveness application. So that was clear. So if you're electing the 24-week period, you're going to go, well, here's my disbursement date plus 24 weeks plus 10 months. That's your due date to put in the PPP loan forgiveness application. If you're, for whatever reason, doing the 8-week, which I can't still yet find any way that it would be an advantage for anybody to use the 8-week. But nonetheless, if you're doing the 8-week for the forgiveness application covered period, then it would be 8 weeks plus 10 months. All that to say, we're into next year no matter what. But when originally the PPP came out, there was a deferral of payments, interest, and fees for 6 months at the end of the covered period. So we have two things that have lined up here, and they needed to be clarified, which the SBA has done in the FAQs, which, by the way, I've put in the body of this video, and here it is. The SBA has made it clear to the banks, which this makes it a lot easier on the banks, that the deferral period for payment, interest, and fees now mirrors the due date of when a PPP forgiveness application must be submitted. So what does that mean? Well, most likely you signed some kind of document with the bank that gave you the PPP funds, and in that loan document it indicated that interest and principal and fees would be coming due for any amount not forgiven 6 months following the end of the covered period. Now, you gotta remember, this is all the way back at the end of March, and there were PPP loans being given out in April and in May before the PPP Flexibility Act came into play. So this is good news for you. It's good news for the bank, because what question 52 in the SBA FAQs indicates, as I just said, that you now have a deferral of the payments for any non-forgiveness amount for 10 months following the end of your covered period. So with that being said, then the question came up with banks, well, do we need to modify the loan documents? Do we need to send something to the borrowers to have them, in essence, extend this out? Because the loan documents, the black and white of what PPP borrowers signed, indicated it was 6 months of deferral of payments following the covered period. So in question 52, I have a link here again. It indicates that no formal notice or no formal agreement is required by the borrower, and the bank doesn't need to have the borrower sign anything. So the bank I'm with, ahead of the curve, nothing being put out there by the SBA, knowing that it was coming. This is how great my bank is that I'm personally using with my PPP, First National Bank in Oklahoma, is they sent out a simple postcard that just says sign here so that you can defer out payments, the interest and the fees for any non-forgivable amount out to match up. So this is going to save banks having to do what my bank already did. So here's the thing to note. There's nothing that you need to do. The banks probably will be giving you notice, as it indicated in question 52, the Q&A. But you now have automatically the deferral of payments, the interest, and the fees for any non-forgivable amount that matches up the date of when you have to put in your forgiveness application. Now, here's the interesting part. For those of you that like to put things in last minute, or you're wanting to put in your application for forgiveness because you want to extend out how long it will be before you have to make payments because you know that you're going to have an amount that's not forgiven. The interesting part here is that once you put in the loan forgiveness application, even though you have 10 months following the end of the covered period, well, the bank has 60 days after that to make a determination of the forgiveness. You have an appeal process, then it goes to the SBA. The SBA has a period of time to determine if they agree with the bank's loan forgiveness. And so what's interesting here is that the SBA has indicated in other frequently asked questions and other bulletins, other notices, that payments don't begin until the SBA makes a determination of your loan forgiveness. So even though this FAQ solved it potentially for the banks, I don't know why they worded it the way that they did, because the way they worded this FAQ, which is good news, was more addressing, does the banks need to provide any written documentation, or does the bank need the borrower to sign anything? The FAQ indicates no, there's no formal aspect to this. The lender and the borrower don't need to do this in writing, but minorly inconsistent, because the SBA indicated elsewhere on the flip side, borrowers don't have to start making payments on any unforgiven amount until the SBA makes their final determination, which is longer than the covered period plus 10 months because of the time for the bank to decide plus the SBA to decide. So what'll be interesting is the FAQs will probably need to get updated again. Now it'll be probably into next year to further indicate, okay, well, actually, this is what I'm predicting, actually the SBA will say that, well, payments actually don't begin, as we said elsewhere, until the SBA determines forgiveness, and the banks can automatically defer collecting payment, interest, and fees until the SBA makes its final determination. So on the one hand, it's good news because in the interim right now, as many are approaching that 6-month deferral that's a part of the original documents, the good news is the banks don't need to require anything in writing. The borrowers don't need to make sure they're signing an agreement that they will allow the deferment of the payments, interest, and the fees. But nonetheless, the FAQs don't 100% solve it for those that are going to wait until the last minute to apply for forgiveness. But I'm glad you stayed till here, okay? Because those that stay all the way to the end of my videos know that I always put in a good Easter egg, if you will, at the end. And here's the good Easter egg. I think that FAQ is in essence appeasing. The SBA is not necessarily concerned about 10 months following the end of the covered period and then 60 days and then them having to make a decision, because I think in the bowels of the SBA, they are anticipating that Congress is going to pass an automatic forgiveness up to a certain dollar amount. Many are speculating it's $150,000 because Congress has that in many of their bills. Of course, we don't have any stimulus here on October 8th, any new secondary stimulus bills to know what they're actually going to do. But I think this is a huge indicator that automatic forgiveness, I think, is going to come about. So nothing for you to do is really the great news right here. And that's why I would consider it breaking news, because even though the SBA indicated you don't have to make payments, this indicates the banks don't have to get any of that, quote unquote, in writing. So stay tuned, because there is going to be more stimulus coming at some point There's going to be PPP involved, which is what this is about. You're going to be able to qualify most likely for PPP, even if you got PPP 1, as we understand what's in the drafts of bills that are out there. And what I'm telling my clients is we're still going to wait. We are going to wait until the next stimulus bill to provide anything to the banks for loan forgiveness application purposes, see if there's automatic forgiveness, see if they streamline it for the self-employed, the forgiveness application process, see if those that get PPP2, do they somehow combine the forgiveness application for a 1 and a 2? I don't know that that would be the case, but at the end of the day, the SBA in question 52 has made it even easier on everyone that nothing formally needs to be put into play. All right, hey, I already asked you to subscribe, but I'll ask you one more time because if you made it to here, I guess I'm providing some value that you wanted to listen to everything that I had to say. Turn on your notifications. Anytime I'm doing any kind of an update or a video, I feel like it's when there is technically something new, not just trying to create another video. All right, hey, don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great day.